Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And it is that time of year. We are getting ready for opening day, and we are going to have our regular season predictions on tonight's show with Connor Newcombe, the host of Locked On Orioles. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, this episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Protein Bars, IQ Mix Hydration Mixes, and IQ Joe Mushroom Coffees are delicious, low sugar, brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean labeled certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 25,000 five-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their ultimate sampler pack includes all three. IQ bars become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ bar, or IQ mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And it is now time for our annual predictions episode where we are joined by one of our most frequent guests, the host of Locked On Orioles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. He is Connor Newcombe. Connor, how are you?
I am great. This is just a lot of On the Verge Locked On Orioles crossover happening. You guys were on my show last week. I'm here this week, and I'm sure we'll get to the fun stuff we have coming up this weekend. But happy to do some predictions. It's kind of nice because even though I do 5 episodes a week, stuff just compiles in spring training, and so there's stuff to talk about in every episode I do, and I didn't actually schedule out a full Orioles predictions for the season episode this year, so everyone will get those thoughts right on Orioles on the Verge instead.
By 2029, we'll just be called Locked On Orioles on the Verge and call today.
And it will all be remembered the March 29th, 2026 live show at Checker Spot Brewing is the beginning point of that. And we'll have more details on that later on in the show, but be sure to mark your calendars for that beginning at 12:30 p.m. Now, before we get into our predictions, we want to go back and recap very quickly the predictions that Bob, Nick, and I did at the beginning of the offseason. We always like to keep ourselves honest, and I'm going to quickly run down those. The first question of the episode was basically the free stamp on the bingo card. Will Adley Rutschman be traded? We all three said no. We were all three correct. Which coaches will be back? The coaching staff had not been announced at the time that we did that show, though we knew a few members of the 2025 staff were leaving. Bob and I had all of the pitching coaches plus Buck Britton. That was correct. Nick had them as well, but also included John Mabry and Grant Anders, who at the time were either officially still with the Orioles or at least were not have reported to have left yet, but those two are not returning in 2026. Will the team hire a GM before spring training? Remember when that was a big story? I honestly forgot about that until I listened to this. Nick and I said no. Bob said yes. Will there be an extension this offseason? We all got it wrong because we all predicted that there would be an extension. I had Trevor Rogers. Bob had Adley Rutschman. Nick deferred to his bold predictions, so I'll wait until we get to that one.
Opening day hasn't happened yet.
Nope. Will any Orioles be non-tendered? To make a long story short, we all included Ryan Mountcastle in our mix of players that would be non-tendered, and that obviously didn't happen. What holes will the Orioles fill through trade? Nick said that they would trade for a bat, specifically name-check Brenton Doyle of the Rockies. Bob and I both said a starter, which was correct, and a center fielder, which didn't happen, but take 50% there. What holes will the Orioles fill through free agency? Bob said starter, bench bat, and closer. Nick had starter, closer, utility player, and then I had a closer, outfielder, and starter. Will this year's payroll be higher? Yes, a little bit higher. So we got that one correct. Ultimately, just about $5 million higher than it was at the beginning of last year. This offseason will be remembered for fill in the blank, and we really don't have the answer to this one yet. But Bob said financial resources of new ownership finally being realized. Nick said refreshing, and I said adjusting their approach, but not completely changing direction. Now, here's the fun part. Bold predictions. Bob, in a weeks-long dialogue with our YouTube commenters, said that the Orioles would trade Jordan Westburg as the headliner in a package for a top of the rotation arm, and they would sign Kazuma Okamoto to replace him at third base.
Shoulda,
He also
woulda.
predicted that Kyle Tucker would not sign with the Dodgers. The Mets almost helped you out there, Bob, and unfortunately that didn't come through for you. But speaking of the Mets, Nick predicted that the Mets would have a busy offseason. He got one move right. They did sign Bo Bichette. However, he had them re-signing Pete Alonso, which obviously did not happen, and trading for Tarek Skubal. My bold prediction also involved Tarek Skubal, but I said the Tigers would not trade him. That has proven to be correct, and hopefully will remain so between now and Thursday. And my bold prediction for the Orioles was that they would make a major move before Christmas. And they did sign Pete Alonso before Christmas, so I'm taking that one as a win.
And they signed Big Christmas as well.
Exactly. So, all in all, not bad. Certainly better than our predictions before the 2025 season.
Yeah, I listened to that episode this morning. We don't need to get into that.
Well, suffice to say that if you were predicting the 2025 Orioles, most of what you predicted was probably wrong. But let's get in now to 2026. And I want to start with probably the question that is on everybody's minds. How many games will the Orioles win, and will they make the playoffs? Connor, I will start with you.
I have been predicting pretty much since the Orioles made the Boz and Alonso moves that the AL East would get 4 teams into the postseason, with the Rays still being competitive but not quite getting in, that those top 4 teams would get in with the O's, the Yankees, Red Sox, and Blue Jays. I'm going to say the Orioles find a way to sneak in. It was 87 wins that it took to get that final spot last year, so I'm going to say 87 wins in the final wild card for the Orioles.
All right. Fangraphs has them at 84. I'm seeing right now, so I'm also going to take the over. I'll go one up and say 88. I'm too bullish on the pitching staff, as we will dive into more and more. I won't run through the whole lineup and just say that if Samuel Basallo carries over spring training into the regular season, we're going to have a good year. But yeah, I'm going to go 87 wins or 88 wins, and they do get a wild card spot as well.
I think the 2025 Orioles are overshadowing the 2026 Orioles in a massive way, even with everyone saying we're going to rebound. It seems like in general, the 2023 team won 101 games. 2024 was on pace for similar for quite a while. I think this team has the potential to be a juggernaut. I'm saying 93 wins and win the AL East because it will be super competitive, like Connor said.
Yeah, I agree. It is going to be really competitive, and it is hard to get 4 teams from the same division into the postseason in this format, but I think it will happen this year, and I have the Orioles at 85 wins in the last wild card spot.
All right, so we're all predicting a good season for this team. Now, will any Orioles finish in the top 3 of Rookie of the Year voting, Cy Young voting, or MVP voting? We'll start with Zach on this one.
I'm going to say yes to MVP. It will be Gunnar Henderson. I think that he will finish top 3, and I think Samuel Basallo will be second in Rookie of the Year voting.
I'll go no on Cy Young. I think it's so hard with Crochet and Skubal there that if they're healthy, there's really only one spot to be in the top 3. I will say no on Basallo. I think maybe the defense will hurt his WAR a little bit. He won't play as much as some other every single day rookies just because kind of easing into his position, but he'll still have a good year. But I will say Gunnar Henderson third in MVP.
I'm going to say that Samuel Basallo wins the Rookie of the Year. I agree he's not going to get that every single day playing time, but I think he's ready to really put a stamp on the season early and often and turn into the beast that we all know he can and I think will be. I think Gunnar will finish top three. I want to pick him to win MVP, but I'm going to say he finishes second. Say Aaron Judge wins it, something like that. And I'm going to say Shane Baz gets third place in Cy Young and is the best Orioles pitcher in 2026.
Okay. I just have Basayo top three in Rookie of the Year. I think the odds I'm looking at right now have him second best odds to win AL Rookie of the Year. Trey Savage starting the year in the IL helps a little bit. We talked a lot about how his postseason performance last year I think gives him a little bit of a leg up. You got a couple of the Japanese superstars coming over. They've got the name recognition behind them. That's going to be tough. Even if they don't have great years, but if they certainly, if Murakami hits a bunch of home runs, even if he only hits 220, you have to imagine he's going to be getting a lot of votes in that. So yeah, I'm just going to go with Basayo top three Rookie of the Year for me.
All right. This year we know who's going to be the closer on opening day. Who's going to be the closer on closing day, the last day of the season? Let's say Connor.
It'll be Ryan Helsley. They paid him the money to have this job. He, before last year, was arguably the best closer in baseball. I mean, at worst, a top three closer in baseball for a 3-year stretch with the Cardinals. I mean, it would stink if he got injured, but injury is really the only way I see him not being in that role.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's fun to think like, oh, Anthony Nunez make the bold prediction or somebody like that. But yeah, the Orioles clearly have wanted Helsley for a while. They locked him in fairly early on in the offseason when they had that opportunity. I don't think they're bringing him in on a hope and a prayer that he can figure things out. I think they targeted him for many reasons. And if this team is going to be successful, like Helsley is going to have to lock down the end of games. So he's still going to be the guy.
Yeah, I agree. And let's not forget, too, that I think this is a man on a mission after that bad second half last year. He knows what's on the line for him. And if he comes out, he has a good year, the Orioles make the playoffs, he'll be in line for a nice multi-year contract somewhere next offseason. So I'm pretty confident that he will be the Orioles closer start to finish this year.
I agree. So let's take this easy question and make it interesting. Let's say August 26th, Ryan Helsley is out until the playoffs. Who is the closer for the final month of the season? Go back the opposite way. Zach.
Ooh, it's a good question.
It's after the trade deadline, so you can't target.
Can't target anybody. I'm going to say Andrew Kittredge by default. He's there. He's got the most experience. You feel comfortable turning it over to him in a high leverage spot, safe situation. Anthony Nunez is in the big leagues at that point if that happens with Helsley, but he's not at the point where he's closing games yet.
Keegan Aiken. No, it's Tyler Wells. I'll go Tyler Wells.
I was going to say, is that Tony Mansolino up there in the top right corner?
He was saved.
It's Tyler Wells. I mean, I think it would initially be Kittredge, but Wells has actually the I mean, remember, had the Orioles had a save opportunity in the 2023 playoffs, which unfortunately they did not, Tyler Wells would have been the closer. He saved the clinch miss game. He's got the experience. He's starting the year in the bullpen. I think it would be him.
I think it's Wells, except it's Levi Wells coming out of nowhere. No, that would be fun. Probably Kittredge or Wells is the realistic answer. I think Nunez is the dark horse. And maybe it is one of the starters, Gibson, Erman, Wells, if they are excelling as a starter or there's just no room. Hey, let's get them some experience. Let's hope that doesn't happen, though.
And this actually gives us a chance to comment on a pretty recent news story for the Orioles. Dean Kramer getting optioned to AAA Norfolk to start the year. And it ties into this question. Who will have more starts for the Orioles this season? Dean Kramer or Zach Eflin? Nick, I'll start with you.
Well, that move was definitely shocking at my kid's soccer game, and my parents were there. So I was like, showed my dad, and he's like, "What the hell?" It invokes a lot of confidence. I feel like in Zach Eflin's back, which I guess I just need to get that concern out of my mind right now, especially given the way he's looked this spring. It just seemed logical that you've got all these starters as long as they're healthy. that Eflin, he was talking about how he couldn't even pick up his kid, and he has this major back surgery, but I mean, he's clearly looking good. I think the velo's up a ticker or so as well this spring, so that looks good. Yeah, and you're still kind of worried about how that's going to hold up across that full season, but I think I'm going to go Eflin. Like, the Orioles went out and traded for him a couple of years ago, knew his health status better than anyone this offseason, and still jumped on that signing back in December. So they want him in this rotation as long as he holds up. So yeah, I'm going to go Eflin.
I'm going to take Dean Kramer, even though he's going to start the year in AAA and Zach Eflin's going to be in the big leagues. I think that even with Zach Eflin's back fixed, he's had injury issues pretty much every year of his career. And maybe some of them were caused by the back, but not all of them have been the back. Specifically, his knee has been an issue since he was in Philly. There's been some shoulder stuff he's had in the past. I just think because of that and him coming off the surgery, the Orioles, he'll find himself a short IL stint or two, and Dean Kramer will be the one to replace him. And remember, Kramer, I mean, since going on the IL in 2022 for the first half of the season, has been remarkably healthy, which is why he's been such a big part of this Orioles rotation. So I think he'll squeak out Eflin in the end.
I think it'll be close, but I think Kramer's going to miss, 2 or 3 turns through maybe just 2 turns through the rotation the first time through, if we think they might eventually go to a 6-man once the early season off days are over. But Backstreet is back all right. Zach Eflin, I think, is going to edge him out very closely. Yeah, I think Eflin could have a short IL stint or 2 in there, but Kramer might as well because he never stopped throwing. That's a little bit different for him. Maybe that leads to some minor things popping up that didn't typically pop up in the past, but it's great depth to have. I think it's a tough call to send a guy down who's been, in there every 5 days, give or take, for the last 4 years. I'm sure it wasn't an easy conversation, but it's fantastic to be able to do that, to have that. Even Povich and Kramer starting in the minors, that's both of these guys were our horses last year, early in the season.
I'm going to go with Kramer for the reasons that Connor mentioned. And you just add on to that Eflin only threw 71 innings last year. He's coming off the major back surgery. I hope he can stay healthy. I think that he looks fantastic, and he has looked fantastic in camp. Mechanically, he seems sound, which we know for his release point is really important. But I don't know that I can necessarily sit here right now and predict 30 starts, 170 innings from Zach Eflin. So I'll go with Kramer.
Alrighty. Speaking of an injured guy, oft-injured guy, but move to the outfield, and Tyler O'Neill, who has the higher F WAR between Taylor Ward and Tyler O'Neill? I'll start with Connor on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's Taylor Ward. I think O'Neill is... I'll give him a little credit. I think he's a better defender than Ward is, if you made me choose, but one stays on the field and one does not, and so that makes my answer fairly easy.
Yeah, it's going to be Ward for me as well. I think O'Neill might have more WAR per game if you were going to break it down rate stat-wise, but not only is Ward traditionally more healthy than Tone. I never Ton. How do you say? I know how to type it. I don't know how you say that. But also you got Dylan Beavers out there. I think there's a little more platoon risk in O'Neill, but if he's healthy, he's going to be in there most days. But it's Ward.
Yeah, it's Ward for me too, and this is not someone who's going to add a lot of value to his final totals for the season through his defense, but I think just by being out there 145 to 155 games, Ward's going to get there by default. It's possible when we look at the end of the year, Tyler O'Neill maybe has the more eye-popping stat line, but Ward will have the higher WAR.
Yeah, and to go off that point, and I think it was Andy Koska at the Baltimore Banner who wrote early on in spring training kind of that piece on Taylor Ward, and how Taylor Ward is like a scientist, like a mad scientist in the lab when it comes to hitting and everything. And so I almost wonder if Taylor Ward's season, if we see closer to like a 2022 version of Taylor Ward than 2025. Like last year he hit 38 home runs. 2022, he hit 281 with an 833 OPS. Hasn't had an OPS over 800 since, but just 22 home runs, 22 doubles, but fewer strikeouts. That was a career year for him, but I don't know, he's away from the Angels, so like I don't know, he can have fun playing baseball again. It's a contract year. He's 32, so this one last chance to get that big bag. I almost wonder if he trades in some of those home runs for more doubles and kind of keep the line moving type of production, and then just let Gunnar, Alonso, maybe even Basayo like kind of be the mashers behind him.
Connor was comparing O'Neill and Ward's defense. Well, if you remove the D, Taylor's name is literally War. So there is that as well. Does Ryan Mountcastle remain a Baltimore Oriole for the entire season, Zach?
Yes, this is the new Jorge Mateo, Ramon Arias discussion. And we know how that always dragged itself out. Although Arias was eventually traded, but yes, Ryan Mountcastle will be here for the full season. I'm not going to believe that he's gone until I turn on a random game one night and see him wearing a different uniform.
I am going to say yes because don't believe in Jordan Westburg's ability to come back, which would push Kobe Mayo maybe not full-time to third with Jackson Holliday at second and Blaze Alexander in the mix, but a lot of Kobe Mayo at third, which makes it more sensical to roster Ryan Mountcastle.
Yeah, it's I don't think we're really capitulating and changing our views after we spent the last year being ready to dump this guy off the team for literally a bag of baseballs. But yeah, I think at this point, the way the roster's shaking out, and when you look down at AAA Norfolk's potential roster, what that could look like, not official yet. Their season starts Friday. Outside of Bradfield, Fabian, and Tremble, who are all outfielders, like that lineup's going to be, kind of tough to watch. You're going to be watching Norfolk for the pitching. I don't think TT Bowens or Ryan Noda are going to be challenging for a major league roster spot. Good depth, but I don't think those are also guys you really want to see on the roster. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't see anybody pushing him off. So I think he probably does stay unless somebody comes calling, like is desperate at some point late in the year. I think he's here to stay.
I personally would take anyone over Ryan Mountcastle to be that last bench spot. But let's see what I wrote in my notes. At this point, sure, why not?
I'll go to this one now, which is, will Jordan Westburg play in the majors in 2026? Bob, I want to start with you here.
Unfortunately, no. I think we should have made him the headliner in a trade this offseason, but that's been and done with that. We're moving past that. But I understand, get the PRP, see if you can come back without needing surgery. I think maybe late May, early June, he attempts to start a rehab assignment in the minors and doesn't quite make it all the way back before eventually biting the bullet, getting the surgery, and hopefully being ready for spring training 2027.
Agreed. I'm not trusting anything the organization says about Westberg's health status publicly, so I highly doubt we see him in 2026. I take the under half a game, to be honest.
I did just keep Ryan Mountcastle because of a lack of Jordan Westburg, but I think we'll see him for like 2 weeks DHing in June as he gives it a go, and then it just is not worth it, and he goes back on the IL and gets the surgery.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him this year, and if we do see him, I think it's going to be in a very limited capacity because the elbow issue was one injury, but there's been a myriad of things, I feel like, for the last year. So I just don't know that at this point I can trust that he's going to be on the field.
All right, let's switch it up and talk about a happier topic. All-Stars. Who are your All-Stars, Bob? Orioles All-Stars in 2026.
Hold on, let me go. Yeah, each team needs a representative. I'm going to say Adley makes it back. I think he's going to have a big bounce back year in 2026, and I think Cal Raleigh will most certainly be the starter, but I think Adley could earn his way in there. I think Gunnar is going to be a star of the WBC. I think he's a man on a mission in 2026. Pete Alonso, I think, is a popular guy in general. I'm hoping he'll have a good first half, and then I threw Kyle Bradish on there as well. So 4 All-Stars for your Baltimore Orioles.
I'm going to say 4. I'm going to say Gunnar, Pete, Ryan Helsley, and Shane Baz.
I'm going to go 4 as well, and I have 3 of the 4 that Connor has, except my starting pitcher is different. I'm going to go with Trevor Rogers instead of Boz, but otherwise I have Henderson, Helsley, and Alonso as well.
Chris Bassett for you, Nick?
Why not? No. I want to be different here, but I will say 3 get voted in initially: Bradish, Alonso, and Gunnar, and then Rogers gets in when they start replacing some pitchers. Rogers just misses the cut, but injuries, guys pitching a day or two before the game, whatever it may be, Rogers gets the nod at that point.
All right. Well, let's go into one of these 2 questions that we do every single year. What is your most pleasant surprise of the 2026 Baltimore Orioles? Nick.
I was thinking of a player specifically, but I went with a stat just because the Orioles were one of the better teams in baseball last year in terms of hard hit and barrel rate. But they add Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso to this lineup, so the power, a healthy Gunner with past the shoulder issue, the potential for power is just enormous. But as we all know, this team could not hit. They couldn't hit anything in the zone, specifically fastballs. They were one of the worst teams in the league in overall in-zone contact rate. And you see the Yankees and Mariners down there with them, around 80% overall. But when you look at like fastballs in the zone, the Yankees actually led the league in WOBA at 372. And the Orioles are 22nd in the league at 328. I don't think this is a flip the switch and everything is fixed kind of thing. And we could spend 2 hours talking about all of this in more detail and breaking all the hitting stuff down. But I think the Orioles, as far as being able to hit baseballs in the strike zone, something they really struggled with last year, and doing damage on those pitches, I think that turns around this year. And that you see the results. The results are pretty noticeable, and you'll see that in stat lines.
I don't think anyone thinks this guy is bad, but I think this guy has a lot to prove. And if he's going to be an all-star, it's probably going to be a pleasant surprise. So I'm going to take Shane Baz. I think first full healthy season in a regular ballpark. And maybe this is too bold for right now, but I think wild card series game 1, it could be a surprise. Not Bradish and Rogers, maybe potentially Shane Baz.
I like that one. I'm going to go with Tyler O'Neill. I think a lot of people were kind of done with O'Neill after the way that year 1 went, and understandably so. He missed a lot of time, and when he was healthy, the numbers weren't great. But this guy's track record suggests that if he can play in the range of, say, 85 to 100, 110 games, he's going to give you some value with the bat. And I think that being able to have a little bit more flexibility with him thanks to the addition of Taylor Ward and Dylan Beavers being on the roster, you can not play him as often. You're not counting on him to be your everyday right fielder. You put him in the situations that favor him best, hopefully keep him healthy, and he'll put together a good year. I think that after this season, there will at least be a better feeling about how that contract is going for the Orioles.
I had a tie. I think Colton Cowser. I think a lot of people are worried about Colton Cowser. I'm not worried about Colton Cowser. I think he can play really solid defense in center. When Tavares or eventually EBJ is up in center, he can play a great left field. I think the offense is going to bounce back in a big way. Spring training numbers are meaningless unless it fits your agenda, and Colton Cowser's numbers fit a lot of people's agendas this spring. And then I think Kobe Mayo, to a lesser extent, I think he's going to be decent enough at third base to really make the bat, make the September numbers look like not a fluke from last year. I'm high on his high impact bat. I think he's going to have a really, really strong year.
Let's flip this around now and go with a player that's going to be the biggest disappointment, starting with Connor.
I am going to go... I don't know. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but I'm going to take Dylan Beavers. Maybe just a bit of a sophomore slump here. Maybe this goes in tandem with Tyler O'Neill staying healthier and being productive. And I just think that, he was ready for the league. He walked, the league adjusts back. He gets a lot more strikes this year. And maybe it takes him a little while to adjust. And they actually utilize his options at some point. Maybe not for the majority of the year, just for a stretch. And that would probably be a disappointment if he spends a chunk of the year in AAA.
You stole my answer. I was going with Dylan Beavers as well. And I don't think he's going to be terrible. I just think he might take some lumps as a sophomore slump type of thing. And if Tyler O'Neill stays healthy and performs, then yeah, he's going to be on the bench more often than not. But I'll also just throw in, just to have a different answer, Chris Bassett. I think if any of the starters are going to fail out of the rotation, I think it could be him. The velocity keeps ticking down, and yeah, he's found ways to use his wide arsenal to work around that. But if someone's going to disappoint, I think it could be him.
I'll just go with the bullpen as a whole. Outside of Tyler Wells and Ryan Helsley, I don't think it's too difficult to see a scenario where Yinir Cano continues to struggle. Keegan Aiken, there have been reasons for concern. Even last year in the first half of the year when the numbers were fairly solid before the IL stint, and then he gets plugged into the late inning role after the rest of the bullpen was traded. Still reasons to be concerned there. Every single team is churning that last bullpen spot throughout the year, but I think the Orioles could potentially, they're really finagling this area of their roster more so than usual. This was a unit that I was haven't been overly optimistic about since spring training started, but I have felt that it could be good enough. But over the last week or two, and now you got Aiken. I don't know if there's been any injury update on Aiken in the last 24 hours, but you do have some injuries starting to pile up, and I'm growing more and more concerned about the bullpen spot outside of the potential 8-9 innings.
Yeah, Aiken is the straw that broke the camel's back, I'm sure.
I'm going to go with Jordan Westburg, and that might be taking the easy way out considering we just talked about Westburg's health status a moment ago. But let's face it, when you were looking at the team this offseason and you were looking for areas of improvement, one of the things that you thought was, well, what if you could get 140, 150 games with Jordan Westburg at third base? I believe everything that everybody in the organization says about who Westburg is as a person, what he means to that team. But at the same time, if he's not healthy, it's going to be a struggle for them. So, looking at his health right now, I'm concerned that we're not going to see a whole lot of him. And then for what that means for the team, I have all the confidence in the world that Kobe Mayo is going to hit this year. But I do think you're going to be left with the question as you get closer to the trade deadline. All right, are we satisfied continuing this tactic every night of putting Blaze Alexander out there for the last 6 outs of the game or 3 outs of the game, however long he's out there? Or do we feel like we need to go out and get an actual third baseman and make Mayo our backup first baseman / DH? They may be at that point at the deadline, and obviously when you're considering what other needs might be there at that point, it would be a lot easier if you had Westburg around. You could count on him to play third base every day. I just don't think they're going to get that this year.
All right, we are a prospect-focused show most of the time. So how many prospects, they don't have to be quote-unquote prospects, but how many guys make their big league debut this year, Connor? How many you got?
So this is actually this is what they call in the business a tease right here. This is going to lead into one of my 6 bold predictions coming out on Thursday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast. And as many out there know, I go bold with my predictions, and they rarely come true. But I'm going to say, this is not the direct prediction, but I'm going to say 3. I'm going to say the 2 arms on the 40-man roster are absolutely going to be used. So Nunez and Foster, I think, are locks to debut this year. And then I will just say 1 of the top starting pitching prospects will debut in some fashion this year. So I know 3 is a pretty low number, but it goes along with my prediction I have coming up Thursday.
I have 8. Let's see, I'm just going to go through them in order of rankings. Trey Gibson, I think, will make his major league debut at some point this season, whether it's a start or out of the bullpen. I also have Nestor Erman and Levi Wells making their debuts. Again, could be used as a spot starter or a fill-in for an injury or bullpen arms, I have Enrique Bradfield Jr. sometime over the summer making his debut. Whether he sticks or not, I think they want to at least get him up to be a potential playoff problem on the bases and on defense. Let's see, Anthony Nunez, Cam Foster, and I think Reed Trimble will make his debut because he's on the 40-man. If there's an injury in the outfield, Tyler O'Neill, come on down. Reed Trimble, and lastly, Aaron Estrada, I think will be the September call-up in 2026.
Yeah, Bob and I might be aligned on this one. I have 8 debuting. I would add Nunez and Foster are a part of that group. And then I have Reed Trimble for all the reasons that Bob just mentioned. Trey Gibson, Levi Wells, Enrique Bradfield Jr., Nestor Herman, and Aaron Estrada.
Smart guy.
I'm going to add one because this goes into something else I think we're going to talk about later on, but I'll throw his name out there now. I think Luis De Leon also makes a cameo at the end of the year. That goes along with one of our next predictions coming up. But yeah, the usual, the two guys on the 40-man, Reed Trimble, there's going to be some sort of emergency injury, and Bradfield's not going to be ready. Trimble can play multiple outfield spots. He's got the speed, he's got the athleticism, so I think he gets a shot up there. And I'm only going to say one of the major starter arms. I don't know if it's Gibson. I'll pick one. And I say it's Gibson. I think he gets the first crack, but I don't know, one or more could be traded. I think some other guys are going to hold off, and we'll see them next year. But yeah, I wanted to say 7 and have like all pitchers, but yeah, I think those are my guys there.
And I spoiled my answer to this, but who will be this year's September 2026? Get their feet wet. We saw it with Beavers and Pasaya. We've seen it, I think, pretty much almost every year since Gunnar Henderson. Who's going to be that prospect that gets a taste at the end of this year in hopes to be eligible to win a Rookie of the Year draft pick in 2027? Connor.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the starting pitching prospects. I mean, that was the cop-out answer I gave on the debuts. Just one of them will debut. I think it's most likely to be Trey Gibson just because of where he's positioned. Personally, I think by the end of this year, Luis De Leon will be just ranked as everyone's best pitching prospect in the Orioles system, and I think Gibson will still have prospect eligibility as well. But just because of proximity to the big leagues and still being a top 100 prospect, I think it'll be Gibson.
Yes. I think Luis De Leon shoves. I think he starts back in Double A this year, but since he only has 3 Double A starts, but if things go well, he can get some good run in Triple A. And then I know the Orioles don't do this just to do this, but why not reward the guy? Like, this is a guy you didn't spend a lot of money on to sign, and he went through a lot year before last. He overcame a lot on the mental side of the game and in his personal life, and wanting to give up, basically. And so I think if he has a year that a lot of us think he can have, why not kind of give him that reward, give him that extra motivation, and prove to him, like, you earned this and you do belong up here, even if it's just 1 or 2 outings out of the bullpen. And then he enters spring 2027 firmly in that mix for a rotation spot.
Those are both good predictions. I'm going to go with Trey Gibson. I think that he'll be in the mix for at least bullpen options, but more likely starts down the stretch. Get the opportunity, maybe even make the postseason roster, and go into 2027, not just as a favorite to win a rotation job, but presumably be one of the front runners for American League Rookie of the Year.
I love those picks, but it's Aaron Estrada for me. I'm just big believer in the bat. I think every time I see him or read about him, it's more and more impressive to me. I think a sign in this organization that they love him is that they bring him up pretty much every chance that they're given. Kobe Perez, Mike Elias, et cetera, et cetera. So I continue to buy into the Aaron Estrada hype train. So choo-choo.
We'll go over this one now, which is what will be the biggest storyline of 2026? Nick?
I hate to say this out loud. I don't want to jinx it, but the strength of the rotation. I think Bradish gets back to the Kyle Bradish that finished, what, fourth in Cy Young voting? Trevor Rogers proves last season wasn't a fluke. Shane Baz, like, Connor, if you got more bold Shane Baz takes, let him fly here. It's a safe space. I'm not going to claim him as my guy. Bob has been on the Shane Baz stuff for a very long time. I was initially kind of like, I just don't know. Like, I know he's good, but I need to see it first here in an Orioles uniform, given his injuries and everything. But I'm more and more on the Shane Baz train. I have enjoyed watching him pitch this spring. I'm excited about what he could build on last year, getting out of Tampa, switching between the minor league ballpark and everything. I'm here for the Shane Baz hype in 2026, further removed from the injury as well. If Eflin can stay healthy as long as you can, I think he's going to be a really great 4-5 for you. And then we've talked about the depth all year, but like, I don't know, you push Brandon Young and Cade Povich further down the list a little bit more, which like I'm here for. I'm fine. Like it sucks for those guys. They definitely earned a shot, but I enjoy all the depth that this organization can accumulate here. So I think it's going to be the strength of the rotation.
Yeah, that's what mine is basically. I will add one word to it. I will say the strength and health of the rotation. Also, another tease for one of my bold predictions coming up on Thursday, but I will say this team was remarkably unhealthy for the last year and a half. I think a remarkably healthy year they're due for, especially with their rotation. I know it hasn't started off great with Jordan Westburg, but he might be his own case that we have to deal with every year. I don't think Rogers is going to post a 1.8, but between him being solid, Bradish, Baz taking the step forward, and I think some of the strongest 4, 5, 6 depth that any rotation has in Eflin, Bassett, and Kramer, I don't think we're going to see a lot of Brandon Young and Cade Povich, and I think that'll probably be a good thing for this Orioles rotation.
I'm going to say the big storyline of this year is the reemergence of the core. Oh, go ahead, Bob. I don't want to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Finish up. I'll take it after you.
No, I was just going to say I think that it's going to be the reemergence of the core, and it's going to be Gunnar Henderson going out and having an MVP caliber season. It's going to be Colton Cowser doing enough to silence some of the doubts about his game, specifically his bat. Jackson Holliday will take another step forward, even if it's not a significant one. Adley Rutschman will be a better version of Adley Rutschman. It might not be back to that 2023 elite level, but we will see a better version of Adley Rutschman. Then add that in with a good season from Kyle Bradish, the addition of Shane Baz, and there's going to be a sense that after a down year, the young core is back on track.
I wrote down revenge of the offense because what was the number? Was it end zone whiff that the Orioles were pretty bad at or pretty high in 2025? And I think health is going to play a major part in this as well, knock on wood. But I just think top to bottom, the Orioles offense is going to be pretty good between, let's just, got Jackson Holliday. He'll come back in a couple of weeks. But even with Jordan Westburg out, Kobe Mayo, Samuel Basayo, Taylor Ward, Colton Cowser, Tyler O'Neill, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Blaze Alexander, Pete Alonso, like even the bench bats are pretty good. I think the offense is going to carry the team, and I think it's going to make the rotation look better. They'll let them settle in. They're not going to be playing with the deficit all the time, and then if the starting pitching's better, then the bullpen doesn't need to be taxed as much. I think it's just going to be a chain reaction, but I think it's going to be the Orioles offense that we saw in 2023, half of 2024, and thought we were going to see in 2025 is back and better than ever in 2026.
All right, so let's look at the AL East as we wrap this one up. And how does the AL East shake out this year, Zach?
I'm going to say Toronto repeats and they win the division, followed by the Red Sox and then the Yankees and Orioles in a very close race for third and fourth. The Rays will be last, but if this is a designation that you can take and have some margin of victory with it, they will be by far the best last place team in baseball.
Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles, Rays, but those top four all make the postseason.
Orioles, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, Rays, but all four of the top make the playoffs for me as well. And
I'm going.
oh, did you not go yet? Sorry.
I'm going Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, Blue Jays, Rays. I feel like I've been high on the Blue Jays every year we've done this preseason show. I'm no longer. I think the Rays, like pesky magic, I think that's done with this team. I do not like that roster at all outside like the top three or so hitters in that lineup. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, and the Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles are the three out of the East that make the playoffs. I think
It's just the Rays are gonna like pull something out of their hat to find a way to win like 75 games
it's
somehow.
done. It's done.
Let's get our World Series, or all right, let's say the 6 playoff teams on each side and the World Series result, if you have it written down. Zach?
So in the American League, I think that the Blue Jays, as I just mentioned a moment ago, will win the East. The Tigers win the Central. The Mariners win the West. And then your 3 wild cards are the Red Sox, Yankees, and Orioles. The NL, I actually want to save one of my wild cards for the bold prediction that is coming next. So I'll give just 2 of them along with my division winners. The NL East, I have to admit, I don't really love any of those teams at the top this year. But I think the Phillies hang on, find a way to win the division. The Cubs win the Central. Of course, it's the Dodgers in the West. And then I think that the wild cards are going to be the Mets, the Brewers, and the third mystery team that I'll talk about in a moment. And then my World Series pick, Blue Jays get back there this year, win it this time, defeating the Cubs.
Boo.
I will, as I mentioned, take the Yankees in the AL East. I'll take Detroit, savoring the one final year of Tarek Skubal winning the Central, and I will say that, yeah, Seattle's going to win. They're just too talented to not win. And then the order of the wild card teams, again, will be all the AL East, so it'll go Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Orioles. In the National League, I am going to take the Phillies in the NL East. I think there is like one last ride happening in Philadelphia, especially if Bo Bichette's going to opt out after this year and those guys get older. In the NL Central, you can't pick against the Brewers, so I won't, and I will take them. And in the NL West, of course, it is going to be the Dodgers. My wild card teams are going to be the Cubs, the Mets, and I'm going to buy in on Tony V and the Giants getting into the playoffs this year. I think this is finally the year it crashes and burns for the Padres, and they have to rethink their whole situation. I will take a Dodgers-Red Sox 2018 World Series rematch, but a flipped outcome. The Dodgers win 3 in a row, and we are in for some awful discourse as the CBA comes to an end next offseason.
That would be terrible. Let's see. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna say I was thinking about making it my bold prediction, but I don't think it's actually that bold. And Connor brought it up there. I would bet the Padres have one of the biggest differential when it comes to what they win 90 games last year. I think they tank pretty hard as well this year.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well. In the East, I have the Orioles, Central Tigers, West Mariners, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, Wild Cards. National League, I'm going to have the Mets winning the NL East, the Dodgers winning the West, the Brewers winning the Central, the Braves, the Cubs, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, making the playoffs, and Orioles over Mets in 7. And Dan Sanchez has the time of his life because he's a fan of both teams there. 7 games, thriller. Orioles get over the hump. We're going to be celebrating in the streets.
Yeah. I got Yankees, Tigers, Mariners in the AL, wild card, Red Sox, Orioles, Astros, NLs, Phillies, Cubs, Dodgers. Wild cards are Mets, Giants. I also have the Pirates. And because we are an Orioles podcast and we're less than 48 hours away from opening day, I'm gonna drink the orange Kool-Aid, put my glasses on, and tattoo Homer on my forehead. Orioles, Phillies, World Series, Orioles in 6. Which might have been my prediction last year before everything crashed and burned in Baltimore.
And with that, now we will head to our last question of the night. We are happy to welcome back Checker Spot Brewing as the sponsor of our last call segment, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is open 7 days a week and not far from Oriole Park and Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pregame or postgame drink. And if you're making plans for Thursday, be sure to include Checker Spot, as they will be opening at 11 a.m. as part of their pregame festivities over there at the brewery. Now, we will be there as well on Sunday, Bob, Connor, and I, for our live show. It's a great place to watch the game, get some good food and some good drinks. And we'll have more on that in a moment. But let's go into our final prediction prompt for this episode. And that is, what is your bold prediction for the Orioles? And what is your bold MLB-wide prediction? Connor, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I've already teased multiple of my bold predictions coming up on my show Thursday, so I'll just steal one from that list, and everybody who's tuned in here can get a sneak peek. I have my bold predictions from 1 to 6 in that episode. I'm going to start with 1 being the most plausible, going all the way to 6, which feels the boldest. I will reveal number 5 out of 6, because I talked about it almost a little bit. The Orioles will only use 7 total starting pitchers this season, which, you know, is more than 5. So it's not like they're just keeping the whole rotation. But if you look into just the history of Major League Baseball over the past, 10 plus years, this doesn't happen. The only big league team to do this in the last 5 seasons is the 2024 Mariners, to go an entire year only using 7 starting pitchers. I think it's the 5 they're going to start with. I think it's Dean Kramer, of course. And then it's either going to be Cade Povich for a little bit or one of the prospects for a little bit, but that's it. They stay remarkably healthy, which is the biggest reason why they get back to the postseason.
Your lips to God's ears.
Let's make it happen, people. My big league, MLB wide bold prediction is that Tony Vitello has so much success in San Francisco that there is another or even 2 more college head coaches hired in the managerial cycle next year. That is my weird off-the-wall big league prediction.
I think a lot of college baseball fans are very anxiously watching what happens in San Francisco because they're afraid of that happening. But
they are in a bet down in Baton Rouge. They are watching closely.
I'll go ahead and go then. I'll say my bold Orioles prediction. I'm going to say Samuel Basallo gets MVP votes. Shane Baz is getting Cy Young votes. And league-wide, the Pirates not only make the playoffs, but the Pirates win a playoff series. I don't know why, but I'm in on Pittsburgh.
I kind of buy it. Those pitchers are tantalizing. All they got to do is hit a little bit. Yeah. We'll see if they can do it. My Orioles bold prediction is, and I agree, if you look on paper, the bullpen is clearly the weakest part of the team going into the season, but I just trust Mike Elias and company. I love a lot of the arms that are going to start in AAA. I think by the end of the season, the bullpen will end up being not B strength, but A strength, and like I was saying earlier, I think the starting pitchers going deeper into games is going to help contribute to that. And league-wide, bold prediction is, not only do I think there will be 4 AL East teams in the playoffs, I think there will be 4 AL East teams with 90-plus wins, 93 for the Orioles, 92 for the Red Sox, 91 for the Blue Jays, and 90 for the Yankees.
My bold prediction for the Orioles is that Pete Alonso will have the first top 5 MVP finish of his career. He's actually never placed higher than 7th in any round of MVP voting. You have to go back to 2019 when that happened. I think that this is going to be one of those years that voters find a case they really like, because Alonso will build off the success that he had last year, look like a more complete hitter. He'll put up a lot of power, as he always does. But then there's going to be the narrative side of it. There's going to be this veteran came in and made a difference from day one. Look at how the Orioles bounce back. And that's going to help Alonso pick up a few votes. And then for my bold prediction, I actually had the Pirates making the playoffs. But now that Bob and Nick have done that, I feel like I've got to change course here. I'm going to say that not only do the Dodgers not win the World Series, they don't win a playoff series this year. I think that they'll get into the postseason and will be one round and done.
Pirates beat them with Schemes, Chandler, and
I wanted to go with that the Dodgers do not win a playoff series, but I like it.
I'd be a fan of that.
Before we wrap up here, Connor is going to be joining us later on this week for our over-under show, which we're going to do a little bit of a different twist than what we usually do with our predictions. But Before we wrap up, Bob, Connor, either of you have anything you want to plug about our live show on Sunday?
I'll plug that it's happening. I'm sure people know that already, but Sunday, March 29th, 12:30 p.m. at Checker Spot. It'll be the three of us and Nick in spirit, of course. We are going to have some cool conversations. We're going to do some giveaways. So if you want some Orioles stuff, I'm going to have some there that's going to have some audience participation. A little bit of trivia stuff going to go on as well, where you'll get to compete against Bob and Zach. I got some games set up for them as well. And if you are smarter than them, you can win some Orioles gear. So come out to Checker Spot, and then we're going to watch some baseball. I'm sure a little college basketball will be on as well on the TVs on Sunday, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I have some baseball cards laying around. First Bowmans of Elvin Garcia. If anyone's interested, I could give some of those away. But really, I just want to see as many people as possible, get to meet and hang out with you guys. It's going to be a blast. Let's get the season kicked off in the right way and have a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, we appreciate the support from our friends over at Checker Spot, and we're glad that they are back here this season for the final segment. And as I mentioned a moment ago, we will be back later on this week with Connor to do our over-unders. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesandTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today at the $3, $5, or $10 level. You'll have access to monthly updates to our top 50 list, as well as bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself. And in fact, with the minor league season starting later this week, I will be delivering the first bonus episode to patrons at the beginning of next week, recapping the Norfolk Tides opening weekend. So be sure to sign up for Patreon now to get that coverage and a whole lot more. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network. Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we're going to be joined by Connor Newcombe, the host of Locked On Orioles, for our annual over-under. But this year with a twist, because before we do our normal over-under prompts, we're actually going to have a little bit of a draft. And we'll explain that in a moment. But first, this episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are delicious, low sugar, brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMO, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. IQ Bars become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And now let's get started with our over-unders by doing our first ever over-unders draft. And Bob, can you give our listeners a little preview of what's to come here?
Yeah, I was listening to Rates and Barrels. I can't remember if it was early this week, late last week, but they had a really cool segment, and I don't know if this was like an official draft that his website was doing. I can't remember, but they went league-wide and looked at, I can't remember which projection system either they were using, but we're going to use Oopsie. So let's just use that as an example and say Ronald Acuna is projected to get 5.7 WAR this year. And then if you draft him and he ends up with 9 WAR, then you are plus 3.3 if my math is correct. And then basically you're just going and doing a draft, and whoever ends up with the most positive WAR over the projections is your winner. And it seemed fun. I figured we could do it instead of league-wide, shrink it down to our little section of the internet with the Orioles. And since we have Connor here, I think it would be a fun exercise to entertain.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick will have our first pick here, but Connor, before we start, any thoughts that you have going into this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to formulate a strategy. It does stink that Gunnar Henderson's oopsie projection is pretty good. Now, someone might take him, but that means he's going to have an MVP winning type season, which is absolutely possible. But he's projected for almost 7 wins already, so he may not be the first pick off the board. But this will be interesting. It'll be an intriguing look on how we see some of these Orioles players this year.
Yeah, deciding on Oopsie changes some things. Because I think they were pretty aggressive on, or at least on the high end, for a lot of guys. So I guess I'll start. Well, we need to come up with a prize though for the winner. This is we track it. We can track the results here. We'll come
That's a
up
good
with
idea.
some draft order for next year's minor league draft or something.
Yeah, there we go.
Some sort of prize. But yeah, I guess I will kick this off, and I'm going to go with. All right, the defense does scare me a little bit, but I'm going to take Kobe Mayo, number 1 overall. He is at .9 WAR according to Oopsie, but they only have him at 44 games. But obviously, with the Jordan Westburg injury, and as we just talked about last week, earlier in the previous episode, I don't think any of us are very optimistic of Westburg playing much this year. So, Mayo, the runway is yours.
That's a good pick. I was actually hoping to get him a little bit later in the draft, but I think the potential is there. It's such a low projection. If he can stick at third base all year round, I think you're going to crush that by a decent amount. I think I'm going to crush this pick, though. Give me the AL Rookie of the Year in 2026, Samuel Basallo, who is projected to get 2.4 WAR by Oopsie, and that's pretty good projection for a rookie, but I think they have him at 20 home runs. I think he's going to be closer to 30. Like I said, I think he's going to break out in such a huge way. So give me Basallo and let's just say he catches enough and is decent enough back there that helps as well. Give me him, I'm going to say at least 3.5 WAR this year. So.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and actually it's Connor's turn here with this pick.
My selection next. I'm going to go in a kind of a similar vein of the Kobe Mayo pick. Some of it's just because of playing time obviously Oopsie doesn't do as much of the playing time projections. They're more based on the underlying data and the StatCast numbers, but Blaze Alexander at 0.6 feels really light for me, so I'm going to take him. 58 games. Again, they have Jordan Westburg playing 99 games. I'd be willing to bet a large sum that Jordan Westburg plays fewer than 99 games for the Baltimore Orioles this year, and that's going to mean more games for Kobe Mayo and more games for Blaze Alexander. I think he's going to play good defense at multiple positions. He's mashing the baseball in spring. He had like a 60% hard hit rate at one point this late in the spring. I think he'll play some third. He'll play some second. I think we'll see him a little bit in center field later in the season, maybe against some lefties. I just think he's going to play a ton Ramon Arias style. And I think with a little bit of speed, he brings you more value than Arias did. You know, Arias' best season was like a 2.1 WAR at Fangraphs. I think Alexander could easily do that, if not better, by bouncing around the diamond. So with his projection being at 0.6 right now, I will definitely take well over for Blaze.
So we have a snake draft here, which means that I get back-to-back picks here. I'm going to actually go pitcher with the first pick, and Shane Baz at 2 WAR feels a little light to me. I think that maybe I'm not quite as bullish as Connor and Bob are right now on Baz, but I think that the base numbers are going to be better. I could also see him throwing more than 150 innings, so I'll go with Baz as my first pick, and then for my next pick, I'm going to take Colton Cowser. Now, it is, I will admit, a pretty big gamble because we know some of the flaws in Cowser's game offensively. There's a question of whether or not he's ever going to hit lefties well enough to be a true everyday player, but 117 games in the projection feels a little light to me. And I also think that it's very possible, if not likely, that his defense is really being undervalued. So 2.6 WAR when you add in good defense in center field and more games played, I think he can exceed that. Even if I kind of agree with Oopsie's projections for him offensively, 240 batting average, 20 homers, 112 WRC plus. That feels about right to me. But I think the defense and the higher total of games played will bring his final WAR up a bit. And now it goes back to Connor.
Yeah, does that mean I'm on the clock? I know how a snake draft works. I definitely understand it. We definitely just did a snake draft a week ago, and I totally know how it works. We are going to go ahead and, I was going to try to target some like 0 WAR guys, but instead, I know this is risky for a reliever who's already projected for 1 win, but I'm going to take Ryan Helsley because I truly believe that he is going to be demon level Ryan Helsley again. And so if we can get, 70 innings out of him with just incredible stuff, that was a 2.3 WAR pitcher just in 2024. I think if he can do that, at this point, there's not a lot of players you're getting who are going to be worth 3 more wins than their projection. So I'm going to take Helsley because I'm definitely bought in.
Good pick. I'm going to go with a pitcher who is projected to get less WAR than Chris Bassett. He had 3.3 WAR in only 109 innings last year. Give me Trevor Rogers, opening day starter. They have him getting 150 innings. That could be close to right. Maybe I think he'll get more, but they have him at a 4.3 ERA, 4.26 FIP. He only walked 1 batter this spring, and I'm a big believer. Obviously he's not going to do as well as he did last year, but I think he's for real. And yeah, I think he's going to easily beat 1.7 F4. F yeah.
I was kind of hoping Bradish or Boz, one of those two would make it back to me because I do agree that they're both very low. I'm up with 2 picks now. I feel good about the Kobe Mayo. I'm going to take the other starting pitcher here, and go with Kyle Bradish. They've got him listed at 2.8. Maybe it's not a ton I'm getting here, but I think you're looking for every little bit you can now at this point, I feel like. He has 3.9 F4 in 2023. So we've seen what his peak is so far. I think he could get me at least close to another 1 win here. So I'll take Bradish there. And then I don't want to take the other one because, what? I'm going to go with, screw it. I'm going to take Gunnar Henderson. He has that 6.5 that Connor mentioned there at the top, but you know what? We all very, very bullish on this team this year. And he was, 7.9, I think, the year before last. And was, 4.8 last year with the shoulder injury and the oblique in spring training. Even if if he gets to 7, if I can add 1.5 to 2 WAR here between these 2 picks, I think I feel pretty good. If Kobe Mayo can save me with being the 1-1 there.
I was going to take Gunnar if you didn't, so good choice. I'm going to go with Jackson Holliday. I know he's going to miss a few weeks to start the season, but I'm a big believer in him. I'm super bullish. I think he's going to make a big leap forward this year in his 3rd season, 2nd full season. I think he's going to – we started to see the on-base skills that he showed off in the minor leagues late last year. I think he's going to add that with the quality of contact improvements that he flashed last year as well. And I think he's going to be easily – and let's hope he improve the defense as well. I think he'll be 3+ WAR in 2026.
Is Anthony Nunez still on the board? All right. Well,
Yep.
I'm going to take him because I think he's awesome, and I think he's going to pitch a lot more than the 25 innings that Oopsie is projecting him for. Even though he's not on this roster, the O's are going to need some arms and potentially need them early. And I just think with a 0.1 WAR projection, I think it'll be pretty easy for Nunez to at least get better than that and get myself some points.
I'm going to go with a kind of similar strategy here, but go for a starter. And I'm going to say Dean Kramer is my next pick. Right now, Oopsie has him at 115 innings, which when you look at him getting options in the minor leagues, it's possible his innings total ends up that low. But like we talked about on our show earlier this week, there's going to be an injury to the rotation at some point, and you know that Kramer is going to be the first guy up. So I think that he passes that innings total and the .8 F/WAR that they have him projected for right now. He manages to exceed. And then with my next pick, I'm going to go with Taylor Ward. And I'll admit with Ward that I don't love the defense, and that could end up dragging his WAR down. But I also feel like we may see a more complete season from him offensively. So if he's able to cut the strikeouts back a little bit, they have him hitting 28 homers in 152 games. Depending on how you want to interpret the data, that's probably about right, but I also wouldn't be shocked if he ends up clearing 30 homers. So this may not be a significant step forward, but a little more than a 3-win season feels possible than Ward, and I think he can do better than the 2.8 that he's projected at right now.
I believe that the only player on at least my projected opening day roster who's at a flat out, okay, there's two of them who are at a flat out 0-0 who I'm projecting on the opening day roster. One of them is a hitter who I'm not going to take. One is a pitcher who I am going to take, and that is Rico Garcia.
No.
Listen, I don't know how good he's going to be, how long he's going to stick around, but he's out of options. He was good last year. He's going to be on the opening day roster. He's going to be used in a lot of different ways. He accrued .3 WAR in 30 innings last year. If he gives the Orioles 60 innings with similar production, I mean, that could be a plus .6, which at this point in the draft is probably solid value to pick up. So got a couple of relievers there. I'll leave the one hitter that I project on the roster to be the 0-0 guy, but he is also my utility infielder projection who might be DFA'd in 2 weeks, so I don't think he's a great value pick.
I like
my
that
pick.
I'm going a similar strategy here. I'm going with the guy that's projected 0.0, so no harm, no foul. If he never plays in the majors or does nothing, I guess he could get negative, but I almost picked Cade Povich just because you need 8 starters and he's projected for 0.1, but I'm going with Enrique Bradfield Jr. just because, say he comes up in July, or look, I know Reed Trimble's on the 40. He's right there if there's an early injury, but there's not a ton of depth at center field that could play capably behind Cowser and Tavares. So if something happens and they need Bradfield, that defense alone I feel like is going to provide value. So hopefully that doesn't, come back to haunt me, but I'm going with the prospect for my 4th pick.
Alrighty. Well, since my last pick was taken there with Rico Garcia, this last one is tough. There's a batter that I'd like to pick, but I don't know how long he's
Very
going.
risky.
Yeah,
I think I know who you're talking about.
it's not Beavers.
Tyler O'Neill.
No, not even Tyler O'Neill. I was thinking, like, do I take a shot with, like, a Brian Ramos, but I don't know how long he's gonna.
I guess you could talk this out because there's no other picks.
I know, he
After
could. I don't know. He could. If Luis Vasquez didn't, break his thumb. If he didn't break his thumb, I think that would have been a good pick in this draft. So you know what? I will. That's too many innings for Wolfram as well. Now I'm scrambling. You know what? I'm gonna go Trey Gibson. Did anybody take Gibson?
No.
Nope. All right. I'll go Trey Gibson. I'll throw a prospect on there. He's at what, .1, I believe, in what, like 7 innings or something. Yeah. We'll say he's the guy that gets some good run as far as the prospect pitchers are concerned, and even if it's at a bullpen role and he could give me .3 or .4, I'll take it.
All right, we'll go over now to our over-unders, and this is what we do every year. We'll go through the projection systems over at Fangraphs and pull out just a random projection, and it could be batter's home run total, player's WAR, pitcher's strikeouts, ERA, innings pitched, what have you, and we'll just go around and try to guess over or under for that total. And I will get us started here with this projection for Steamer, which is a 4.2 ERA from opening day starter Trevor Rogers. Connor, over or under 4.2 ERA for Rogers this season?
I'm going to take the under. I mean, from a 1.8 to a 4.2 would be kind of disappointing. Is his ERA going to get higher? Absolutely. But I think there's enough real stuff there that it'll stay in the threes somewhere.
Under 3.87.
I was going to say under as well. I'm going to say 3.78.
I'll go under 3.6.
Oh, we're each reading these individually? Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle Bradish, another starter from Steamer. He is projected for 3 WAR. So if that happens, Nick's getting 0.2 in the draft. Are we over or under that, Zach?
I'll take the over.
Over 3.7.
I'll take the over by a little bit. We'll see on the innings. The innings might hurt him if they limit him at all, but I'll take over.
Yeah, I'm a slight over as well. I'm thinking like 3.3, 3.4.
All right, Shane Bosbulls, here you go. 156 strikeouts. What do you got, Bob?
Over 200 plus.
I'll take the over. I mean, he's fully built up, so why can't he pitch 180 plus innings? And at that point, I mean, if Shane Baz pitches 180 innings and strikes out 150 batters, there's probably an issue.
Yeah, I'm definitely going the over here. I think the projection on this one, the innings pitch total, was kind of low. So I'm going to say he ends up with around 190.
Yeah, I had over 190.
All right, over or under 156 innings from Zach Eflin. That is what Steamer has. Start with Bob on this one.
I think it's a good number. I'm going to go under a little bit just based off what we talked about on this week's earlier episode. I'll say like 140-ish innings for Zach Eflin this year.
I said under 130.
I'll go under. I mean, he threw 71 last year. He's only eclipsed that 156 number, 3 times in his career, and he's only eclipsed 165 once. So 165 is kind of like the target for Zach Eflin. So that's usually with one IL stint. The fact that they're going to want to get Dean Kramer in there, 6-man rotation, I think it'll be under.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. I'll go around 130.
Next up, we have Connor's guy, so we'll start with him. Ryan Helsley, 29 saves, says the bat. I don't know how they know pitching, but the bat says 29 saves.
29 saves. Saves, they don't make saves like they used to. You don't have Jim Johnson going out there and getting 53 saves anymore. I do think this Orioles team will have to win some close games. I think they may have an offense that builds okay leads and a bullpen that maybe makes them a little bit closer. So I think Helsley will get enough run to get, say, 34 saves or something.
I'm going to say push. He's at 29 saves this year.
29 to me feels a little bit low, provided, of course, that he stays healthy all year and the Orioles are winning games, but winning close games. And as Connor said, I think there are going to be a lot of, 7-5 wins where Helsley's going to have to come in after a few rough innings and slam the door. So I'll go somewhere in the range of 30 to 35.
Yeah, I feel like even bad teams, if you have a closer that's healthy all year and keeps the job, they're going to beat 29 saves. And I think we're a good team, and knock on wood, he stays healthy all year. So I'll say over as well, somewhere in the 30s.
All right, Tyler O'Neill. 100 games played. Zach, over under.
I'm going to go over. Maybe not significantly more, but I'm going to say he finishes somewhere 105, 110 games.
His goal should be 100, and he is going to hit it right on the dot in the regular season.
Give me the under at 97 games played.
He's slimmer. At least not as bulky anymore. Good spring. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say over 109.
Steamer has Taylor Ward projected for 25 homers. Connor, does he finish over, under, or push at 25?
Over. I mean, will he hit 36? Maybe not, because left field won't be as kind to him for 81 games. But for 25, I mean, Ward is like at the prime of his power hitting right now, it seems. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to continue to sell out for power, but he had 25 in 2024, then he hit 36 last year. I think we're probably closer to the high 20s, low 30s this year, but he'll beat it.
Yeah, I was thinking 29, so I'll say over as well.
I'll go with what I talked about last episode. I'll take the under here, but he has a higher F WAR. He's like a 3+ WAR player this year. It's a lot of doubles. It's just more base hits. He's striking out less. He's getting on base more. Maybe the power isn't there like as much as it was last year. I realistically, I think he's going to be way over this, but for the sake of the argument here, I'll go under and continue with the trend that I talked about in the last episode.
It's probably me since there's silence. Pete Alonso, 38 home runs according to Oopsie. That's a pretty bold prediction for a projection system. Let's go to Zach.
Right on the dot. I'm going to push on this one. 157 games played. That seems about right for Alonso. 38's a good round number. I'll go with the push here.
Under 36.
I'll take the over. I think he's just going to be here to hit homers, and maybe some of his other stats may decline a little bit as he's here, but I don't know. I mean, you look at the seasons where he's had at least 38. He's had 4 seasons, and it's 5 seasons of at least 37 in his career. So I'll take the over.
The A in Alonso stands for analytics. We have a new and improved Pete Alonso. I say 43 home runs in 2026. Over.
All right, Samuel Basayo, 118 WRC plus. Zach, over under.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to say he finishes at 122.
Okay.
I will say over. Certainly, if he's the rookie of the year, 126.
I'll take an under at about 110 with some power, but some strikeouts, maybe not as many walks as we want. But for year one, and he gets better defensively, I think it's overall a good year for him.
Connor Newcombe hates Samuel Basayo.
Yeah, noted Basayo hater, Connor Newcombe. Print it on a T-shirt.
I'm going to take the over as well. Just looking at the WRC plus leaderboard for rookies last year and seeing who was above that. And if, again, going back to other predictions, if Basayo is going to finish top 3 rookie of the year voting, then he should eclipse 118 WRC plus. So I'm going to ride that hot spring he's having and hope that translates over to the regular season.
Adley Rutzman, 4.2 F4 according to Oopsie. Nick, is that going to be over or under the final total?
Adley's becoming a hotter and hotter name, I feel like, in some of the fantasy focused stuff I've been listening to lately. People trying to last minute drafts jump on the Adley late round train there. I hope it has to be a better year for Adley, but I'm going to say under at 3.5.
I'll go under. He'll be a little bit better, but I don't think it needs to be 4 WAR Adley for him to get this team back on track.
If Adley is over a 4.2 WAR in 2026, we are winning the AL East. And I still think we are, but I think Adley will be under 4.2. I'll say like 3.8. I still agree that it's going to be a nice bounce back year for him.
I'm going to go under. I agree. I think he finishes somewhere in the high 3s, which is going to be good enough, and it's going to be a nice bounce back year.
Another member of the core, Jackson Holliday, 158 ISO is projected by Oopsie. Is he going to, the hamate bone injury tends to sap some power. Do we think he can eclipse that, Connor?
Looks like I'm trying to do math in my head for what's 158 ISO for Jackson Holliday. The projections have him at 14 home runs. Yeah, honestly, I'm going to go under, but I think he just goes into minor league Holiday walk mania this year because he doesn't maybe have the power for a while because of the hamate thing, and he's still a really productive hitter.
Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. Even if he's like 150, that's a significant improvement from last year. What was last year? 130 something? I lost the sheet there. It was low. So 150 is under that, but still a significant improvement for Holiday.
Yeah, 133 last year. So I think that going up to 158, especially with the hamate bone injury, would be a massive leap forward. It'd be nice to see, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I think it'll be somewhere in the 145 to 150 range.
I agree as well. I'm going to take the slight under. I do think that he's going to bat like 270, 280 this year. I think he's going to get on base like 375 plus. And the ISO will just be in the 140, 150 range. And that's going to be a hell of a player.
All right, two more before we wrap up. Dylan Beavers at 371 at bats. Connor, you had a prediction earlier about maybe a AAA stint for Beavers. Does he still go over 371 for you?
Yeah, at bats is also a tough one because this guy walks a lot.
Yeah.
So the at bats number is gonna go down. So I'm gonna take the under.
I'm going under as well based on my disappointment prediction in the last episode, but I think it'll be close. I think he will get some good run. Maybe if Tyler O'Neill doesn't even hit 50 games, 60 games, then maybe it's over. But at this point, I'm taking the under.
I'm going to go with the under too, partially because of the point that Connor mentioned. Beavers does walk a lot, and the most productive version of Dylan Beavers, he is going to be walking quite a bit. I also went back and I looked this up because this is, I kind of think, the baseline for what I see Beavers' share of playing time being this year. In 2023, Ryan O'Hearn appeared in 112 games, had 346 at-bats. And it felt like we saw a lot of Ryan O'Hearn, especially down the stretch that year. And if Dylan Beavers has that kind of rookie season, I think you could be reasonably happy about it. But it does show that even with getting out there over 110 games, you might not get to 375.
No, I'm taking the over. He's approaching 400 this year. All aboard the Dylan Beavers train.
And with that, now we will head into our final segment. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect pre- or post-game spot this season. And speaking of pre- or post-game spots, you should check out Checker Spot on Thursday because they're going to be opening at 11 a.m. in celebration of opening day. So head there before, during, or after the game, get some good food and beer. And of course, Bob, Connor, and I are going to be live there on Sunday with a live show. We will have some details posted to social media between now and then, but you can expect some fun games, including some trivia, of course, some Orioles commentary, and a whole lot more. That will begin at 12:30 p.m. So if you have tickets to that afternoon's game between the Orioles and Twins, be sure to stop by ahead of time. But if you don't have tickets to the game, come to the show and stick around Checker Spot to watch the game there. They've got plenty of TVs, good food, and good drinks, so it's a perfect place to hang out and watch the game. Now, I saved this projection for last because if this goes as well as we think it could, we're talking about an MVP level player this season, and that is Gunnar Henderson. I think I know where the three of you are going to go with this one, but Oopsie has him projected at 6.5 F4. Do we think that the final total is higher or lower? Connor, I will start with you.
Mark DeRosa has unlocked a different level of Gunnar Henderson this year, so I'm going to take the over there, and he's going to be right in the MVP conversation.
Is it too late to bring him in as a special consultant? Please don't. 6.5. Yeah, I think he's going to be, I said, second place in MVP voting. I'm going to say he's 8+. I think he's going to have a monster year. It's his age 24 season. He's fully healthy, it appears. He looks like he's in midseason form. Crushed a home run in the exhibition on Sunday afternoon. I'm excited to see him try to become the next $500+ million man. So, yeah, I'm going over for sure.
Yeah, I just took him in the draft in hopes that happens. Again, he was 7.9 in 2024. He's 4.8 last year with the shoulder issue. And I loved listening to John Mioli when we had him on last week, and he talked about that WBC experience and how that probably pissed him off. And so leaving him on the bench, cool, helps us out a little bit more. You hate it for him, but you know what? He's going to go out to prove to the world that he is a megastar in this league, and he takes this team pretty far this year.
So before we wrap up, do any of you have anything you want to add to the Mark DeRosa discourse, or has all been said about that? just around baseball.
Like you said to Bryce Harper, you got to watch out because this commissioner what did he say? He threatened Bryce Harper with physical violence. Screw Mark Torosa.
We're going to get into the thing about TV host and positions of power, and we should just end it here before we go into that.
All right, I'm going to throw out one more prediction here. It just came to mind. Speaking of MLB, and let's call our shot now. Will there be a 2027 season? Connor, I'll start with you.
Yes, they will not play 162, but yes, they will play a majority of the 162. And honestly, maybe that's what they should do moving forward.
I completely agree. I think it'll be like 140 something. I think, maybe we'll miss most of April, but I think there's too much money on the line. Got to get the season in.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
no fear mongering.
Here's the over-under. This comes out probably Thursday morning, but over-under one waiver claim before Thursday. I'm going to say push.
Push.
Yeah.
Push. Yep.
Yeah, hindsight. You already know the answer, but.
And I'll say that we have a 2027 season because much like with the last lockout, both sides just kind of throw their hands in the air and say, let's just go ahead and do it anyways. Plus, let's face it, baseball can't afford to not play. And now, before we go, Connor, tell our listeners what you have coming up over at Locked On Orioles.
Yeah, the week of opening day. It's a final opening day roster projection Tuesday. I got a rotation preview with Brendan Mortensen of Masson out on Wednesday. I got the 6 bold predictions, very bold. None of them are probably going to come true on Thursday, and then an opening day recap on Friday. And then, of course, live show on Sunday at Checker Spot at 12:30. But you can check out Locked On Orioles wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get this show. You can probably get Locked On Orioles as well. 5 days a week. Listen to your On the Verge prospect or minor league recap the morning of, and then tune into Locked On Orioles after that.
It really is the two crucial shows you need. You need your Locked On for the game recaps, keep you in the mix for the major league stuff. We're coming with the major league analysis as well, but also we're going to keep you covered on the minor league side. Super stoked to get out there Sunday. I'm going to get there early, stay for the game, so come hang out.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And the three of us, might be back on the air next week, in addition to having more shows than the live show. But we'll figure that out in the next week or so. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today at the $3, $5, or $10 level and have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself. And that will be kicking off next week when I recap Norfolk's opening week. And you will also get monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list, access to patron-only channels within our Discord community, and a whole lot more. So be sure to check that out at Patreon.com today. Thank you to Connor Newcombe, the host of Locked On Orioles, for joining us this week. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.